I think we're going live. YouTube says I'm live, so thank you for joining me yet again. Oh my goodness, YouTube just popped up a different interface than usual, so I wonder if they're updating stuff right now. Oh, well, interesting. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me yet again for another lunch live stream. I've got one lonely hamburger over here, but I've got stuff to make a couple more hamburgers. That's what I'm eating for lunch today. I hope you guys are comfortable. Hope you're sitting in. Got something nice to snack on yourself. Thank you guys for joining me. Always good to see you guys. Always good to talk with you guys. And before anything else, I've seen that like vegan meat alternatives and vegan burgers are a little bit on the rise. So I wanted to try it today with one of the more popular ones. This is a hamburger that was made with Impossible Foods vegetarian like meat alternative. I will say that it is not a vegetarian, or it is not a vegan burger, I should say, because it does have a slice of cheese on it. But you know, yeah. I do like cheese, and I'm not willing to give that up just quite yet, I guess. I have no plans to go vegan, but I always thought it's kind of interesting to see that the way food trends are evolving. You know, it's interesting to see that a lot of people are moving away from the meat as a food source, as a protein source, stuff like that. I know hamburgers are like a staple in everyone's diet, so I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be pretty dang good. Wow. First impression, so it really does just taste like beef. That was a lot more like beef than I was expecting it to. I didn't season these patties at all, but it does have some like nice seasoning built into it. So they are nice and seasoned patties. Just threw it on a cast iron skillet on the stove, and I was really impressed to see how well it like seared up and everything like that. Now, one thing about these vegan alternatives to meat is I know a lot of people, like, I don't know if anybody who thinks that Impossible Foods, you know, Beyond Burger or Beyond Meat, like, is super healthy, but I feel like a lot of people think that other people think that those things are healthy. But with this one, Impossible Foods, I just popped open its website. It's actually kind of small print, so got to get out my reading glasses. Oh man, kind of look like a librarian when I wear these. What do you guys think? Does it make me look smart? All right. Anyway, ingredients in Impossible Foods meat alternative is water, soy protein concentrate, coconut oil, sunflower oil, natural flavors, 2% or less of potato protein, methyl cellulose, yeast extract, cultured dextrose, and modified food starch. Soy legomoglobin. Legomoglobin. I don't know what that is. I think that's the stuff that they put in there to give it that like juicy texture, the juicy feel, like you're biting into something that's got blood into it. And it has salt mixed to tocopherols and soy protein isolate. So this is something that is made primarily with soy protein, and I know that soy protein is something that a lot of people poo-poo on. It's not the best protein out there. It's not the kind that I would go out of my way to eat for sure, but this does have, let me see. So these are 4-ounce burgers. I bought a 12-ounce package split into 3 burgers. And each serving has about 8 grams of saturated fat. It does have 9 grams of carbohydrate. So, like, yeah, this is not health food. This is stuff that you would, like, this is stuff that a vegan might bring to a barbecue to cook for themselves if they didn't want to feel like too out of place eating, like, soy burgers and stuff like that around their non-vegan friends. So it is stuff that, yeah, it's tasty. The price is pretty comparable to like premium beef. Like if you get good organic grass-fed beef, it would probably cost about as much as this stuff. This 12-ounce pack, I think it cost me $8, something like that. But the patty itself, almost indistinguishable from beef. Like I said, it does have some cheese on there, so this is not a vegan burger. And I do have some sliced white onions I know it's like wrong onions to put onto a burger. If you're gonna do raw onions, you got to do red onions, and if you're gonna do like caramelized or sautéed onions or crispy onions, something like that, I think that's when the white onions are a better alternative. So overall, not too bad. I think this is a pretty good alternative to beef. Mm. If you want to cut down on pollution, you want to cut back on your meat consumption, definitely a good alternative. Oh my goodness. Oh, we got AJ in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. It says, hey Steve, how's your week going? Meat alternatives are fascinating. Still have to try the impossible. Yeah, it's definitely not too bad. I've had the Beyond Meat. I think it's really cool in my opinion that these meat alternatives are getting sold at like really mainstream, like fast food places. So you can go get Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger at Wendy's or Burger King, or I tried it at oh my goodness, it was Fat Burger, I think was the name of the place. Like way back in the day, I put that video up where I ate. No, I think that was something else. But yeah, you can get those kinds of vegan alternatives in a lot of those mainstream places. I personally am not vegan, but I do think it's cool to see some of those meat alternatives popping up, because I do think that one of the problems with health in America is that people do eat too much meat, eat too much in general, and if you're not, if you have your body in this constant anabolic state from eating meat constantly, then it is quite unhealthy. Mm. I think if I was going to do this again, I'd probably make it a little bit more rare. I don't make burgers often at all, so I'm not super well rehearsed on how to do that properly. Oh my goodness. Well, I hope that you guys are doing well out there, and I know that as per usual, I gotta comment on the fact that like the world is in a crazy place right now. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and it reminds me of this psychological model for how people approach life and how people are motivated to do the things that they do. And the most popular model to determine like what it is that motivates people to continue and to push forward and things along those lines is something called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. It's a pretty well established model, been around for a super long time. So I thought it'd be cool to take a look at it and take a look at like some of the arguments against Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. I think it's a pretty solid idea. It's definitely not like the kind of thing that you could apply to everyone or in every situation. So I also thought it'd be cool to take a look at some of the criticisms of it and to go over to see like what the veracity is of some of those criticisms. So Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, like I said, super common, super popular. If you just search it on the internet, I'm sure you'll be able to find plenty of it. But it's this basic idea where any person is always motivated to better their own environment in some way. And you always have this hierarchy where you have your very basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid first. And then once those are met, then you kind of like move up the pyramid to try to meet some of the higher level needs. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you have your physiological needs where, you got food, water, warmth, stuff like that. Or if you don't have those, like really, that's top of mind. That is absolutely critical. That's the thing that you want to get to. If you are completely bereft of food, you haven't had anything to drink for 3 days, you don't really care too much about, for example, some of the self-actualization or the esteem needs where you're trying to like impress other people, that kind of thing. So I thought it was cool that this guy, so like I said, it's this pyramid right here where if you don't have your physiological needs, that's what you're going for first. And then once you meet those, then you try to look for your safety, and then once you feel safe, then you start, moving up the pyramid to love and belonging, then esteem, then self-actualization. And, it's always a good idea to like understand what the root meaning of each one of those are. And I came up with this article. This is just simplypsychology.org/Maslow. If you want to check this out yourself. It just gives like a really basic overview. It says the origin of the hierarchy of needs 5-stage model includes Maslow, etc., etc., etc. Our most basic need is for physical survival, and this will be the first thing that motivates our behavior. Once this level is fulfilled, then the next level up motivates us, and so on. So the physiological needs, like I said, these are the biological basic requirements for human survival: air, food, drink, shelter, clothing, warmth, sex, sleep. I can say on a personal level, yeah, sleep, definitely. I feel like I'm not getting nearly enough sleep, and eventually I just pass out. I've been pulling a lot of all-nighters lately, so that is top of mind. And I do have to say that number 2 really rings true with the current situation in America right now. So once the individual's physiological needs are satisfied, the needs for security and safety become salient. People want to experience order, predictability, and control in their lives. And this is like, it really strikes home that, you know, a lot of America, I feel like, fell back into this level 2 of the pyramid at the beginning of the pandemic, and then again when all these riots and stuff started breaking out. And this really is reflected in the fact that a lot of like more liberal people who might have been against owning a firearm in the past all of a sudden came out of the woodwork and were trying to talk with their more conservative, more like pro Second Amendment friends about how they get their hands on a firearm immediately to satisfy their own needs for feeling safe, stuff along those lines. And I've mentioned before that I do own a couple of firearms, but I really discourage anyone from like impulsively getting a firearm if they feel that that's what they need to feel safe. It's always a good idea to like actually understand what you're doing with those. So very, very important. Just like a little aside there, not really salient to what's going on today. All right, so moving on, number 3, loving and belongingness needs. This is one where I feel like I get stuck on a little bit. It says after physiological and safety needs have been fulfilled, the third level of human needs is social involvement and feelings of belongingness. The need for interpersonal relationships motivates behavior. Example includes friendship, intimacy, trust, acceptance, receiving, etc., etc. Like, that is what social distancing has created a huge need for. I think that, again, something that is really salient to what's going on today. So after you feel safe, then you start to like feeling of wanting to, you know, feel like you're a part of a society, basically. And then number 4, esteem needs. At the 4th level of Maslow's hierarchy, which is classified in 2 categories: esteems for self-achievement, mastery, and independence, and 2, the desire for the reputation and respect of others, e.g. status and prestige. Maslow indicates that the need for respect and reputation is most important for children and adolescents and precedes real self-esteem or dignity. I mean, I think that's an interesting point. I think that's something that everybody in their late teens, early 20s, if you haven't reached that part of your age yet, maybe not something that you'd ever think about, but all of a sudden, like especially in high school, well, probably in middle school might be when it starts, when you start to feel this like social pressure basically and the need to fit in, that kind of thing. Very interesting stuff there. And I think when you are like that kind of like younger and middle teenage years, when all of the rest of your needs are basically taken care of by your parents in general, that's when, esteem needs suddenly becomes very, very big in your life. And the last one, the self-actualization. Like, I personally think that self-actualization is a very interesting topic. It's something that's like kind of, how would you say, like kind of ephemeral. Like, it's difficult to pin down exactly what it is. It's interesting to think that at the bottom of the pyramid, it's very specific, like you need food, you need water, and that applies to everyone. And then as you move up it, then all these things become a little bit more wishy-washy. It doesn't really apply to everyone equally, basically. Some people might have their own definition of what esteem means or what a self-actualization means. So I am constantly fascinated by what this is. So the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy, let me see. Let me try to read that again so that it makes sense. Self-actualization needs are the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy and refer to the realization of a person's potential, self-fulfillment, seeking personal growth, and peak experience. pardon me. Maslow describes this level as the desire to accomplish everything that one can and to become the most that one can be. I think that might have been like an army slogan, if I remember correctly. Be all you can be. Anyway, individuals may perceive or focus on this need very specifically. For example, one individual may have a strong desire to become an ideal person, and another the desire to be expressed economically, academically, or athletically. Oh man, all three of those ring true for me. I do enjoy getting money. I do enjoy, I am currently working on improving my academic credentials, and I have always been a very athletic and very competitive person. So that's interesting right there. For others, it may be expressed creatively in paintings, pictures, or inventions. Interesting stuff right there. Before moving on, this hamburger was so good, I think I'm going to make myself another one. Oh. A hamburger break. So checking in. Have I lost everybody yet? I do sometimes feel like these are not the kind of like light, fun topics that I used to talk about a whole lot, but like I've mentioned in the past, I always find it super fascinating to dig in just like a little bit to get a good idea of how some of these really deep and interesting topics work. So I will say, like if you look at these burgers, that does look like beef. It smells a little bit like planty, I guess. But I do like that it has a good crisp outside so that you do get the like good grill line and stuff like that. I'm going to make this completely non-vegan by putting a couple of strips of bacon on here, though. And some cheese. And some onions. My incorrect onions for the job, but we'll get it done. I think that white onions are fine. And I don't think I need any more salt on this, but I will put a little bit of ketchup. So no mustard, it's super salty, but a little bit of ketchup. There we go. Completely making this thing non-vegan, non-vegetarian, but still I think it's going to be pretty tasty. Hard to go wrong with bacon, with extra bacon. All right. So I think the most common argument of why Maslow's hierarchy of needs is wrong is that most people don't live in any single one of these levels. A lot of people today are thinking about their safety needs and their feeling of love and belonging, not just one or the other. But that was never a prerequisite that was never built into Maslow's original theories. So I think that argument is kind of missing the point a little bit. I believe there's a fancy Latin term for that, but I can't remember what it is. You could probably look up, I think it's Aristotle's logical fallacies, another really interesting topic, especially if you're into debate. If you read through, so a little bit of another small aside here, Aristotle was this very famous debater, and people would come from all around to basically debate Aristotle on different topics. And Aristotle had this series of what he called logical fallacies, that if anybody tripped themselves up by making one of these logical fallacies in their arguments, for example, missing the point of an argument or drawing a conclusion that is a correlation instead of causation, something along those lines, then he would just stop a debate right there and say, well, you obviously don't know what you're talking about, so you're wrong, basically. And if you do read some of Aristotle's fallacies, what would create a fallacy in an argument, then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere. They are so common, especially in political debates. Once you open your eyes to these, it becomes like babbling children. All of a sudden, so many of the arguments that might have made sense in the past, without understanding some of these logical fallacies, all of a sudden you can see right through them and see that it is really just a whole lot of bogus arguments that are just there to appeal to emotion instead of appeal to logic and to improve things. So maybe I can talk a little bit more about logical fallacies on another day, but not today. Anyway, getting back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Let me see. I came across this interesting website. Has a nice title called "Why Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs is Wrong." Pretty clear. No bones about it. They think that it is wrong. All right, so let's see here. What do they have to say? Maslow's hierarchy of needs tells us that humans, in order to survive, first need food, shelter, and warmth. He claims that these human needs are the foundation of the pyramid that leads to self-actualization. However, UCLA professor and social neuroscience researcher Matthew Lieberman argues that Maslow got it wrong. Food, shelter, and warmth are not the foundation of human needs. In his book, Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect, Lieberman shows how the latest science is revealing that, above all else, our social bonds are the most essential need we have for survival. After all, how is a baby supposed to find food, shelter, and warmth on her own? Human babies are absolutely helpless and must rely on others for their survival, unlike other animals who are born and can walk and gather their own food within hours, days, or months. Human babies take years to prepare their own food, become mobile in their environments, and have language and creative skills to effectively communicate in the modern economy. Can you imagine a toddler trying to walk around a city, bartering for food and other resources? Really? I mean, how bizarre is that? This is completely absurd. Like I feel like I don't need to pick apart this argument at all. The idea that human babies is a great reason why social needs are more important than food and water, like, that is completely absurd. No, it is absolutely absurd. The idea, like, a human baby doesn't require social connection, they just require a caretaker. Like, and that caretaker is providing their base level of from Maslow's hierarchy. It's providing, you know, a caretaker is providing food and water and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this argument, like, it can be picked apart so easily. I might be interested in taking a look at Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect, to see if there's more to this argument than this really, really pitiful article is trying to put out there. But, like, at the surface of it, this is a completely absurd argument. Again, I could refer to Aristotle's logical fallacies of kind of missing the point. It's like, well, a baby needs a caretaker, but they do not need social needs and social belongings, or social to belong to a community and stuff like that. So they're basically arguing that, like, love is more important than, you know, love and social connection is more important than food and water. And I would argue that if you take away somebody's food and water, they're gonna panic real quick, as opposed to taking away somebody's friend for a week. Yeah, it's gonna suck, but you're gonna get over it. Like, no, this is absolutely ridiculous. I cannot abide by some ridiculous argument like that. And to make up for it, to try to recover from such silliness, I'm gonna eat. And again, this burger, not even vegetarian anymore. Threw some pig on there. So I've got soy, pig, and cow's milk. I think this would have been a little bit better if I had, like, a soda, maybe a can of beer or something like that to go with this, but it's still pretty good. All right, I need to recover from that silliness, but I pulled up this other article that also looked pretty interesting. So it's Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, criticisms, which, number one, I am way more amenable to reading, like, light criticisms as opposed to this ultimatum of basically saying everything you say is wrong because of this one little point that's sticking with me right here. No, I mean, that's ridiculous. If somebody just blows down an entire argument based on one tiny point, again, that's another logical fallacy that I just can't abide by. But this idea that, well, Maslow's hierarchy of need might make sense, but it does have a couple of flaws. I think this kind of argument makes a lot more sense, in my opinion. That's based only on the title, though, only on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, criticisms, not blowing it out of the water, because, you know, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as so many people tend to want to do nowadays. All right, criticisms. In their extensive review of research based on Maslow's theory Waba and Broodwell. That's a strange name. Waba and Broodwell found little evidence for the ranking of the needs for that Maslow described, or for the existence of a definitive hierarchy at all. The order in which the hierarchy is arranged, self-actualization, described as the highest need, has been criticized, being ethnocentric by Geert Hofstede. Hofstede's criticism of Maslow's pyramid may stem from the fact that Maslow's hierarchy of needs fails to illustrate and expand upon the differences between social and intellectual needs of those raised in individualistic societies and those raised in collectivist societies. Now that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. Like somebody trying to improve themselves in a place like Japan, where collectivism is a lot more popular than as in America, where it's basically all about the individual. Yeah, I could see how like self-actualization is just kind of like, well, who cares about that? You know, you're part of society and you want to make society better instead of making yourself better. So that is very interesting. I do like that argument. So Maslow may have created this hierarchy of needs from an individualistic perspective, since he was from a highly individualistic society, the United States. The need derives from those of individualistic societies tend to be more self-centered, and those of collectivist societies, focusing on improvement of the self, with self-actualization being the apex of self-improvement. Since the hierarchy was written from the perspective of an individualist, the order of needs in the hierarchy, with self-actualization of the top, is not representative of the needs of those in collectivist cultures. In collectivist societies, the needs and acceptance of community will outweigh the needs and freedom of individuality. Well, that seems like an odd argument right there, since self-actualization being at the top of the hierarchy actually says that it is outweighed by the things beneath it. So I think that they do miss the point a little bit there. But very interesting points from Waba and Broodwell. I think those are cool names. They must be foreign names, must not be American names. Not making fun of those names. I actually do think that they're pretty cool. Waba, Broodwell. So interesting points there. I always think it's cool to kind of like look into criticisms, especially of your own points of view, to kind of like open your mind to the way that other people think. And it really does give you good insight into the way that people think in general, and maybe even a little bit of insight into the way that you're thinking too. Oh my goodness. Well guys, thank you for joining me for lunch again today. I had an amazing lunch with some bacon burgers. I think I earned it this morning with a decently rough workout, about an hour on my bike, and then I did maybe 200 pull-ups or something like that. So I'm definitely feeling the need to do all those pull-ups to get my guns nice and big. Look at that. I've got such wiry arms, it's ridiculous. But again, thank you guys for joining me. Always fun to hang out, always fun to look up interesting topics, to share thoughts, to bring a bit of a collectivist, like a collection of ideas into one space. It's always cool to interact with you guys. So if anybody has any ideas for different topics that they would like to dig into, that they'd like to see me ramble on for future lunch live stream, always interested to hear from you guys. You can drop it in the comments. You can send me an email. Got my email address in the box below. Oh my goodness. MJC, thank you for popping in right at the end. Says I'm going to watch from the beginning, but I wanted to say hi to you, Steve, and everyone. Yeah, dude, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching these. I'm always happy to see that folks are actually enjoying these and really watching them. So until next time, I hope you guys have a good one. I'm gonna see if I can't finish this burger real quick though. I'm not super good at eating burgers. So if I ever do enter a burger eating competition against like Joey and Matt Stoney and Darren Breeden and the like, I think I'd get my butt whooped. I'll have to practice that. Of course, probably not going to be doing any eating contests for quite some time now. But still going to be eating good food. Still going to be putting out those videos for folks to watch and enjoy. All right, man. Until next time, Friday afternoon, I hope you guys have a good one. Stay safe. And yeah, keep yourselves healthy out there.